In the spring of 2011, conflict between the city of San Jose and its employees erupted over how to resolve the city's $115 million deficit. A media campaign by Mayor Chuck Reed implied that all city workers were excessively compensated. Especially on the question of pensions, extreme examples were used to illustrate bloated pensions. That could no longer be supported by diminished city revenues. A majority of the public polled on whether they wanted to solve the city budget crisis through increased taxes, cuts in services, or lowering employee compensation chose the third option. AFSCME members representing the lower-paid city employees faced with a 12% pay cut held rallies to oppose such drastic action.
Even though the city has been reluctant to have any sort of real negotiations with us, we have offered the 10% reduction in our base salary pay. We gave that up. In addition to that, the city has said that we, as the only bargaining unit in the city, who has to actually give up the raise that we got last year, that has to be part of the plan. And we're offering that 2% as well. We're offering changes to health care. We've modified salary steps. We've sent these things across the table as these are things that we'll do. So we'll lower our salary steps from 5% to 2.5%. We offered to modify the overtime calculations and a significant number of other things. And the city has said no, it's not exactly the way that they want it.
AFSCME represents 1,500 part-timers working for the city who do not get any pension at all, and few, if any, other benefits. Many city workers are also residents of the city and concerned about the cuts in services.
A clerk is encompass all service to the community. As soon as they walk in, they come to the desk. They could ask you anywhere from where's a payphone to where can I get food, where can I learn how to use a computer, a whole gamut of possibilities there, along with how much money do I owe and how many books can I take out and all the rest of this stuff.
And so how will cutbacks affect what you do for the community?
For that particular community, we were one of the two important entities, both of which are scheduled to be either cut back or closed. Alum Rock Youth Center is scheduled to close, which took that community a long time to get an actual community center there. Serves a lot of the youth. A lot of them are at-risk youth. A lot of them are low income. So in the library we get a lot of those kids that come in that need either someplace to hang out. We have a lot of people, of course, that are unemployed at this stage of the economy, and so it will affect the extra day that they close the library will affect a lot of people. Every time we open, there's several people just waiting to get in.
AFSCME leaders and members expressed their frustration with negotiations and the impression that they were overpaid.
What do you have to say about this impression that the city employees are overcompensated?
I have to chuckle because that's our inside joke, is that we hear that, and it's an unbelievable statement. The problem with that statement, as it was last year, was that statement assumes that everybody in the city gets paid this high salary, and the largest employee section of the city is the Parks and Rec and the library, and then some other services, all of which are on the lower end of the pay scale. Majority of the library is part-time workers, as well as the Parks and Rec, so they're not even involved in the pension, or they don't get Social Security, they don't get benefits. So truly our employee population is very minimal to the whole picture of the city as far as paying out pension and benefits. The use of the word union, it's now been used by the politicians as something of this other thing, this other being, and in fact it is just people. It's community members, people who work in the community that are workers, and they've banded together to form a union, which is necessary because of things that happen like this, where we're under attack and people are under the assumption of all this rhetoric that's been thrown around to the public, and the public, without researching it, takes on what their leaders say to them, and unfortunately it's a big lie.
And some of the things that I do that I think are really important to the community is that I have an English conversation club. I have a great time with that. People really like it. I do the teen services at the library. I have a teens reach meetings and craft programs for them, and also a couple of hours a week I help folks with doing job applications and looking for work online, because a lot of people need help with that. So what the library means to people is that they have a place to go, a space that they can come and get help and get information and just be. So.
Do you both live in the city of San Jose?
Yes.
Yes. So, how are these cutbacks going to affect your neighborhoods?
Oh, I'm horrified. I used to live in the neighborhood of the Biblioteca, and I was part of helping to get a new Biblioteca and a youth center, and now they're both on the same grounds, and now they're in danger. The library will be open 3 or maybe 4 days a week. The youth center, I don't even know if it's going to be open at all, what's happening with that. So I'm really horrified that community is going to have to do without these important resources.
And do you feel like you're overcompensated as a city employee?
Another chuckle here, yeah. I am part-time, like it's about 1,500 part-time workers for the city who will never get a pension. And I pay like $380 for health care every month, so no, I don't feel overcompensated.
Well, Mayor Reed is threatening to declare a fiscal emergency because he claims that the city employees are bankrupting the city. You have anything to say about that?
Well, it wasn't really our fault. We didn't cause the mortgage meltdown, the Wall Street crash, the high health care premiums, any of those things. So we feel like it's being all laid at our doorstep when there were circumstances beyond our control. And I think that's very frustrating for people. People really take it personally. I know that people I work with is like, wow, look what they're saying about this in the paper. That's not us.
And I understand the union has tried to be flexible with the city.
Oh, very, very flexible.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Well, I know that they've actually pretty much agreed to almost everything that the city has requested, but the problem is that they asked for a couple of things in return, non-monetary types of things in return, and the city has imposed conditions, imposed a contract on us.
Many related the San Jose situation to what had happened with public workers in Wisconsin and the dismantling of public services and the rights of public employees across the country. This was especially true after Mayor Reed and some city council members proposed declaring a fiscal state of emergency and putting a measure on the ballot to attack pensions and undermine collective bargaining. Historical links were made when 2 AFSCME sanitation workers who were on the strike with Martin Luther King Jr. came to Memphis to support them in 1968, came to San Jose to support the current efforts by union members.
In 1968, when Memphis, Tennessee African American sanitation workers were mistreated and denied basic workers' rights, including equal treatment, safe working conditions, and fair wages, 2 ordinary men, Baxter Leach and Alvin Turner, took extraordinary action by voting to strike and walking off the job to join the picket line and march in protest. They just wanted to be treated with dignity and respect. So the very simple but poignant slogans of the protest were, "I am a man, and collective bargaining is the American way."
We have these two national treasures in Mr. Leach, Baxter Leach, and also in Mr. Turner, and that their families came literally at the drop of a hat. And in Spanish culture, Mexican culture, we have a saying that says presencia, that the importance of being present at important times. And the fact that you are present here at our darkest hour, coming all the way from Memphis through terrible weather and all the other challenges, is just such an honor to us. And I think an inspiration for us as we think about how to make the place we call home a better place to live. And I think your call to boldness and to action is something that we've heard. And we are honored that you're here. So honored, I know that I took my son out of school because I thought, what better way to learn about the legacy, really. In fact, part of the reason these families are fighting so much isn't because of their own paychecks. It's what happens to their families. It's what happens to public work in the next generation. That's what we're called to act upon. Do we believe in a public sector where professional people come and fight fires? And we have the president of Robert Sapien from the Firefighters Union. We're honored you're here as well. Thank you for being here. You know, that's what this struggle is about. It's about whether or not our common good will be held up through our commonwealth with all of us at the table. We want to thank the council members who are here. We understand the tough job you're in, and this really isn't about blaming. It's about finding a better way, the best way, and the right way.
Testimony at a May City Council hearing on the budget overwhelmingly expressed support for public employees as well as direct community services to the neighborhoods. The unions and the community found common ground in the Neighborhoods First campaign. Testimony at a May City Council hearing on the budget overwhelmingly expressed support for public employees as well as direct community services to the neighborhoods.
I have been a dispatcher for the San Jose Police Department for 13 years. My coworkers and I have served the citizens of San Jose well during those years, but at a cost to our own health and welfare. The constant barrage of dealing with emergencies and the physical demands of our job have caused damage to our bodies. Many of us have had multiple work-related surgeries, myself included. Now you are considering cutting our medical coverage, reducing our salary, and extending our retirement by 10 years, any one of which would undoubtedly cause a mass exodus in this department. Every day I have to think and act quickly using common sense and past experience to gain control of emergency situations. If you couple all of these proposed cuts, you will lose the experienced people who can and do think outside the box, and you will leave our police officers and citizens with a dreadfully degraded support structure. Already, security and protection offered to our citizens are falling to the level of other cities where crime and violence are rampant and have become a way of life. Please listen to our union, the one consistent voice of reason that protects both the workers and the city from litigation. Thank you.
Judy Purrington.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Judy Purrington. I live in District 2. We elect you and we look to you to provide necessary services to the community. When libraries were made a charter service, I don't think those folks ever envisioned decimating the services to the degree you're considering. Yesterday, I met with my council member, Ash Kalra. I delivered to him over 500 cards with notes from my neighbors who use the Edenville Library. Their need for this essential service is considerable. I urge you to look for alternatives. Please consider the $17 million Neighborhoods First proposal and extending the retirement obligations by a couple of years. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Sandy Perry. I'm from Cham Deliverance Ministry. I'm an outreach minister there. We've served the homeless in downtown San Jose for about 20 years. Our ministry is based on the teachings of Jesus, and we're also followers in the tradition of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King often called for what he called a revolution of values. He said a revolution of values looks uneasily on the glaring contrast between wealth and poverty, but he never imagined a valley as rich as the one that we live in. The Silicon Valley 150, I'm sure you're all aware, made $85 billion with a B, $85 billion last year. And we have got to find, as a city, we have got to find a way to persuade some of that wealth to come in to be used to provide for services for the poor, services for the neighborhoods, for compensation for our employees. We've elected you to be leaders of our city, and what we need are some proposals to increase revenues. Leadership means cooperating with unions, not confronting them.
Sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Buenas tardes. Yo estoy aquí porque estoy un poco preocupada por los centros comunitarios y por las bibliotecas porque...
Good afternoon. I'm here because I'm worried about the community centers and the libraries.
Yo vivo por 12 años en la 658 Lotus Street aquí en San José.
I've lived for 12 years on Lotus Street here in San Jose.
Y estoy un poquito preocupada por todos esos recortes porque es lo que más usamos yo y mis hijos.
And I'm worried about these cuts because these are some of the services that me and my children use the most.
Y también pues estoy preocupada por todos los recortes.
And I'm worried about all of the cuts.
Pero más que nada estoy preocupada también por los recortes de los viejitos, ¿cómo se dice? Okay.
And also I'm worried about the cuts to the elderly as well.
Y estoy apoyando también la solución.
And I'm also supporting the solution here tonight, the proposal from Working Partnerships.
Gracias, muy amables por escucharme.
Thank you for listening. Very, very kind of you to listen to me.
Pat Saucedo is our next speaker. Will be followed by Carol Garvey and Melanie Helmke.
Mayor and Council, Pat Saucedo, San Jose Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce. 4 brief comments. One, I'd like to thank, on behalf of the Chamber, the city manager and staff for their continued work in the budget and their efforts to quantify the city's true fiscal position. 2, the Chamber fully supports adopting a budget that builds in the expectation of the 10% total compensation reduction for all employees. This will provide the greatest latitude to maintain core public services for the community. 3, fully support and recommend a continued expansion of the option to contract out non-core city services to the private and nonprofit sectors. And 4, fully support continued efforts to implement cost containment for employee and retiree health care and pension benefit programs, elimination of sick leave payouts, and the elimination of automatic step increases. Closing the $115 million deficit for 2011-12 with existing revenues and resources while implementing reforms must be the priority for all stakeholders for San Jose. Thank you. We recognize this is a difficult year budget-wise. Thank you.
Carol Garvey.
Hi, I'm Carol Garvey. Lived in San Jose most of my life. I wanted to give a shout out to the Piedmont Hills High School class of the football team. They just won their division championship, and that's my alma mater, class of 70-something. Anyway, city budget must put the priorities of neighborhoods first, which means preservation of services that protect all residents, especially those most in need, and enable them to lead productive and useful lives. The city's general fund is on the hook to pay the debt service on the first bonds for the convention center. This year it paid $15 million with the expectation that the redevelopment agency would pay it back. So far, the redevelopment agency has only paid back $5 million, leaving the city out another $10 million. That's $10 million that could save libraries, public safety, and critical services. Neighborhoods come first. Thank you.
Melanie Helmke.
I stand here before you tonight to say that I'm disappointed that I have voted for some of you. How can you start to build a soccer stadium, speak of a baseball stadium?
Please don't interrupt the speakers. Let them speak.
How can you start to build a soccer stadium, speak of a baseball stadium, or a central transportation hub while you are taking away from the poor of this city? What is needed is our park rangers for safe parks and trails where children can bask in the sun. What is needed is safe community centers where children can grow when the weather is bad, and libraries where children can learn when they don't own a computer or internet service. As a single mother, I could never afford sporting events, and I don't know why you think that would change now. How about showing that you care for the less advantaged as much as you care for the rich? Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Sal Ventura, and I'm the Assistant Business Manager of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 332. I've participated in contract negotiations with the City of San Jose for about the last 14 years. And up until about the last year and a half, I've always had a sense of trust and mutual respect when dealing with the City of San Jose. Last Friday, I was contacted about the mayor's statement regarding this fiscal emergency. And I tried to process that information with a sense of calm and rational thought, but I failed. I failed to remain calm, and I failed to see any rationality. So let me say this to the members of the council who were part of that statement. Shame on you. Shame on you for taking a political stance against city employees and their unions. Shame on you for using a political ploy at a critical time of negotiations. And shame on you for hiding behind a lame statement of hoping to bring resolution to negotiations as a reason for your support. All you've done is publicly declare war on city employees, the faithful and hardworking servants of our community.
Sorry, your
and again,
time
I
is
say
up.
shame on you.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you. You know, I'm saddened that this process seemed very much like what's been going on around the country. We know there's been a tactical thing from the right wing, money's coming out of the South, billionaires funding people like the Chamber to come in and do this exact thing around the country. It hurt my heart to find out this was happening here in San Jose. Nobody would go and decide to run for this office to represent the people of this city, and the Chamber come and send one or two people. We know who they're speaking for. And those two voices for the rich class that's funding the Chamber, that we've been having to deal with this all across the country, they come and speak, and their voices mean more than the citizens of this city. We should not do this, that the people that work for this city are antagonistic against you. You guys come to us and ask for votes so that you can represent our city, and we hope that you can do for this city now what the people in front of you did, made a great city of San Jose. Please don't destroy it.
City unions and supporters held a Be Fair and Share rally on August 1st to support city services, collective bargaining, and to collect 300 backpacks and school supplies to be donated to children. Many people have pointed to expenditures on the Hayes Mansion, the proposed ballpark, the luxurious City Hall, golf courses, and downtown subsidies as examples of areas that could be cut back. Community members have suggested charging fines on banks that have foreclosed on homes for not taking care of blighted properties such as other cities have done. However, this is only part of a very big picture. The tax structure at the state and national level has changed over many years to favor the very wealthy and the large corporations, and the consequences are taken out at the local level. General Electric paid no taxes last year. The personal fortune of Larry Ellison, the CEO of Oracle, could single-handedly take care of the California deficit. The profits of the Silicon Valley 150 largest corporations came to $84.7 billion last year, an increase of 80%, but jobs only increased 6%. Their taxes were only 18.7% of this profit. They are parking the profits offshore while the city, county, and school districts are starving for funds for education, libraries, healthcare, community centers, parks, and social services. The other side of the equation is spending priorities. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan will cost $171 billion in 2011 alone. Think of what that could do for housing, healthcare, and other human services with those funds. Trillions have been spent on bailouts for banks and corporations. Why isn't the federal government bailing out the states, cities, and counties? Libraries are now only open 4 days a week, and some new ones have never opened. Community centers are either closed, have cut way back on their programs, and or charging for ones that were formerly free. Parks continue to be closed on Mondays. The city declared an impasse and imposed terms and conditions on all city unions except police and fire that amounted to a wage cut of 10 to 12% of total compensation. The City Council is currently scheduled to vote on declaring a fiscal emergency to pave the way for a ballot measure that would attack pensions and retirement and undermine collective bargaining. The city and the rank-and-file unions continue to bargain. The city is spending millions of dollars on high-powered anti-union consultants and an outside actuary. Edge for Economic Justice and the people of San Jose have some suggestions on what the City Council should do, and some words of advice for the U.S. Congress.
Keep our libraries, community centers, parks, and all essential neighborhood services open.
Charge fines on banks for not taking care of foreclosed properties.
Vote no on the fiscal state of emergency and the ballot measure, and instead support collective bargaining rights.
Raise taxes on the wealthy and the corporations so you can fund education.
Stop bailing out the banks and corporations.
The war in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Palestine, and in the Mexican border.
Bail out state and local governments instead.